10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are live. Good evening, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing great, Juanita. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show. It's an honor.
Fantastic, fantastic. Welcome to Meticulous Moments, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. Now, I've been following you on social media since last year, and we recently connected. And I also had the pleasure of meeting you in New Jersey at the Alma Business Bootcamp. So, for those in the audience that are not acquainted with you yet, I'm just going to give them a recap or a small illustration, some information about who you are.
Okay,
It says
sounds
here on your
good.
profile. Yeah. It says here on your profile that you're a digital creator. You're a partner at Unleash You Now, Phenomenal Family. Brightside Property Group, you're the president CEO at Mr. Brightside and regional partner at Master Networks, Delaware and Maryland region. And you're also the CEO at Brightside Roofing. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience and just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I try to quickly capture, who I am as a person by saying to people that I am a underdog entrepreneur. Most of us are, but I started out in this world a little bit different than others. I was super poor. My parents were both drug addicts, and I was in and out of foster care, and then I was in and out of trouble until I had a miracle in court save my life. And when that miracle happened, I stopped making excuses for my life. I grabbed control and I just decided to take charge. And since then, I've been on an upward trajectory. I've built some businesses. I've got some real estate investments. I'm partners in some other businesses. And I've been trying to show people the way, knowing that when you're cut from a cloth like mine, yet you're still capable of reaching some pretty impressive summits. It's important for other people to understand what they're capable of too, because they're probably thinking the same way that I did, that they are stuck to what the people that have come before them have accomplished. And I'm telling everyone that I come in contact with, the possibilities beyond your self-limiting beliefs are so remarkable.
I want to say something. We chatted at the book camp, but we didn't. There were so many people. There were so many things going on. I was emceeing. You were with a phenomenal Unleash You family there, helping in the background, really helping to make the event a success. And I think this is the longest conversation that we've had, and I'm already inspired. You have the life of a true underdog entrepreneur, someone that really everything, all the odds were against you, and you pushed through, and you decided you are going to make a success or of your life. Now, I want to ask you, would you like to elaborate on that miracle moment in the court? Because that's captured my attention now, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. So at that point in my life, I had been in and out of trouble so much that they were referring to me as what's called a habitual offender. And so when you're a troublemaker like I was, and again, I never did anything like super terrible that really, um, you know, deserved the kind of time that they were trying to give me. But it was because I was so habitual with my behaviors, and I just kept getting into trouble. And I'll tell you real quick, a lot of people tell people that when they get into trouble or they get arrested, they're going to ruin their life. I was arrested for the first time at age 13, and I really bought into that belief. I thought I had ruined my life. When I got arrested at 13, I was so bought into what everybody told me that I was like, why try? Like, what do I have to lose now? It's all over. And so I just stuck with this same kind of behaviors. And at the age of 21, I got arrested for what would have been my fourth felony conviction. And when the prosecutor presented me what's called a plea offer, meaning plead guilty to this, we'll give you less time than you would get if you went to trial and got found guilty. That plea offer was for 33 years. And it scared the ever loving hell out of me. Excuse my language. I don't mean to curse on your show, but it
Okay.
scared me. And I spent the next 7 months in prison
Mm.
waiting to go to court for what I thought would be the last time I would ever go to court and the last time I would probably
Yeah.
be sentenced, you know? And so I had a miracle happen in court when the witness slash victim, who I was caught red handed, I was guilty as could be, walked
Yes.
into the courtroom
Yeah.
and said in front of the entire courtroom that the man that did this is not in the courtroom today.
That feeling, right?
Yeah. And it's in that moment, you know, it's like in that moment, right? I was released from prison, but the real prison I was released from was not made of concrete and steel. Like,
Yeah.
I was released from a lifetime of victim mentality. I was released from a lifetime of the scars of my childhood and just the excuses and self-limiting beliefs. I was released from all of it. I was like, I'm going after this thing called life, and it's going to take everything this world has to offer to
Yeah.
prove to me that I can't do it, because I'm not telling myself no anymore. I'm going after it.
I love it. I can just imagine how you felt in that moment. You
Phew.
know, it was make or break for you. And thank God that happened, because today you are inspiring so many people. You are doing so many great things out there, and you broke the mold. You broke the mold
Yes.
and you showed people. And I know Michael Faber and I had a interview last year on Meticulous Moments, and we talked about the fact that some people say BS is your belief system, but it really stands for bullshit. You know, when people try to impress certain things on people that have maybe a few character flaws while they're growing up, because they didn't have the right examples or mentors or parents to help them, it's really bullshit for everybody to say no, but they can predict that this and this will happen, because it's really in every decision that we make. I always say the choices we make is the life that we live. And you, in that miracle moment, you decided you are going to change your whole life around. What was that feeling like when you walked out of prison and you knew this is your reset, this is your new start, the world is your oyster?
Yeah, it was still scary, right? And you know, I felt a lot of pressure because I knew what was waiting for me on the other side of these choices, right? I knew, right? There was no guessing anymore as to how they were going to treat me if I got in trouble again. But I also had been released from prison numerous times before. And every single time I told myself and everybody that I was leaving that I'd never be back, yet I returned. So, what was going to be different about this time? And I really held on to the phrase, like, if you want something from this life that you've never had, you've got to start doing things you've never done. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So I came home, and, you know, with 3 felony convictions, it's very difficult to get a job, right? And so I was like, but I was like, again, I'm not making excuses, because that's what I've been told. Everybody told me it was going to be tough to get a job. I've had
Yeah.
some experience with that, but I haven't tested all avenues. So let's start
Mm.
testing all avenues. So I said, all right, I'm going to try to do something I've never done. So I borrowed a suit off of my cousin, and my cousin, by the way, is 6'2", and I'm 5'9" on a good day. So the suit was big. And
Yeah.
so, but I put this suit on nonetheless, and I started showing up to places that I thought might hire me if I got an opportunity to talk to someone, versus me just checking this box that says felon on the application that makes me pretty much guaranteed I'm never going to talk to anybody.
Yes.
So, so I said, all right. So I put that suit on and started showing up to places that I thought might hire me, and I ended up with my first job that way.
Fantastic. But the resilience, though. I think the other times that you were released from prison, you had made a promise to someone else, family, friends. I wouldn't be
Right.
back, guys. I think
Yep.
the difference in the last time that you stepped out of those doors is you had made a promise to yourself. And I
Yeah,
think in that miracle moment when you were standing in court, you realized that you are valued, you are valuable, you have a right to be here, you have something to give, because that's a once in a lifetime event. I mean,
for
it's not
sure.
often that we hear that happen. So obviously there's
Yeah.
something special that you are supposed to be doing. And I know you are doing it, touching
Yeah.
lives.
Now there's truth to what you're saying. You're right. I was telling everybody else I wasn't going to come back every other time, but here's the thing that I think, and this is what I choose to hold on to from that, right? This was the
Yeah.
first time that I felt like divine intervention
Wow.
interfered
What?
with
That's you.
or stepped into the obvious outcome, right? All the other times, like I had negotiated a plea with the prosecution and they're like, well, we're going to give you this. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Right. And I go home or whatever. Right. Cases go the way the cases go. And I go home. I serve my time. I come home. Right. This time I had all this and no chance, no hope. I had been praying for 7 months. I was in pretrial, praying, hoping, and wishing to what I don't know. But I was praying, hoping, and wishing for like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And for that to happen in court, the degree of gratitude that I was filled with is still in me to this very day. Juanita, I'm supposed to be right now, I'm supposed to be 14 years into that 33-year sentence at the very least, if not a longer sentence that I would have eventually got. I'm supposed to be 14 years into that right now. So like to me, it's all about gratitude now. Like I've already won. The stuff that I've accomplished, like I won when I got the job in the beginning. The stuff that I've accomplished since then is just the cherry on top, you know? I've already won. So gratitude is just flowing through me.
I love that. And that's one of our hashtags here, at Meticulous Moments. It's leadership, gratitude, and community upliftment. And let me tell you, you are quite the leader. You are busy with so many projects, helping so many people, and the gratitude that you experience every single morning. I believe that's your driving force. And of course, with everything that you do, it involves community upliftment. So I was thinking, as you were saying about praying, I was thinking, God was looking at you and he was saying, I'm going to do exceedingly abundantly above what you've asked. You're not getting 4 or 5 years. You're getting your life back. And it really, it makes my heart happy to hear these things transpire in people's lives.
Yeah, and that's it now too, right? It's like now I have this, but like you said, that 1 in a million miracle, man, people can't bank on that, right? So when I'm speaking to, because I do a lot of work with like troubled youth, at-risk youth, and I speak in detention centers, and my message to them is like, the miracle that came for me is not coming for you. And why bet on that? Why bet on this chance, this miracle that could eventually happen when you can bet on yourself right now by just changing your belief structure and start doing the things that are going to progress you and move you forward, right?
Yes.
So it's like why bet on that miracle when you could bet on yourself now?
That's the truth. Stop wasting time on doing that and bet on yourself. I love that advice that you give. What are some of the concepts that you bring to the youth that you work with, that you upbuild and edify and help out there with your story and your journey? What are the topics that you like to discuss with them?
So the main mission is to show them what's possible for somebody who's cut from the same cloth. Now, one of the challenges with this, right, and one of the things that I never faced as an adversity in my story was that I was still, with all the trouble that I had been into and everything that I'd done, I was still a white man with blue eyes, right? So I didn't face all the challenges that people face, right? And so when I'm speaking to a detention center, who the main and the majority of the population is young Black men, I have to remind them that while I'm the example before them today, I'm not the only example that's before them, right? There are plenty of people who look just like them that were in far worse situations than I've ever been in my life and are doing far better than I'm even doing today. So if one person can do it, any of us can do it, right? So it's like making sure that the possibility is understood, because I'm telling you, Juanita, when I was in school and the teacher was talking about you can be anything you want to be, I thought she was talking to everybody else, because I didn't think there was a chance in hell she was talking to me, because I wasn't from that side of the railroad tracks. You know what I mean? I wasn't from that. So for me to be believing that, I know I'm not the only one that's sitting there listening to the teacher say the things that are the right things to say, but believing it's applicable to the rest of the people in the room and not to myself. We exclude ourselves from that valuable information. So my main thing is to show them what's possible. And I could take them through all the steps of how to go further. One of my favorite quotes, it's a Brian Tracy quote, so I can't take credit for it, but he says, your success in life will be in direct proportion to what you do after you do what you are expected to do. And I call that Yeah, I call that the extra mile mindset, right? It's like
Oh,
every bit of effort and energy you put into your life above the requirement, the minimum requirement is going to be an investment into your success. So why are we doing the bare minimum?
exactly. Exactly. Going that extra mile. I think that principle that you brought to the fore, that's the life of an entrepreneur or a successful entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship involves very late evenings, very early mornings, and always going the extra mile, being adaptable, being flexible. And we shouldn't only be like that in our workspace. We should
That's
be
right.
like that in every area of our lives. So it's a wonderful concept that you bring to them. And I know you do quite a bit of public speaking, quite a lot of public speaking. So, what's the best part of doing public speaking for you? What's your favorite part about that?
You know what? It's interesting because there was a time in my life where I didn't think that this was going to be something that I was doing, right? But I
Yeah.
speak a lot, Juanita. I speak a lot about what I call the responsibility factor, and I'll explain
Oh,
that to you. This
yeah.
is like when you're in, like, let's imagine you're in a large ballroom, right? A big, huge room, tons of people in the room, right? And you
Yes.
find out that there's a pending threat to everybody in the room, and you just happen to look over and there's the intercom. You probably
Yes.
wouldn't hesitate at all to hop on that intercom and tell everybody what's going to happen. Something's coming, guys. Please get out of the, get safe, brace yourselves, go to a safe place, whatever, right? Get into hiding, whatever, right? Because the message is
Yeah.
life changing, it's life
Mm,
altering, right? So you
yeah.
don't even hesitate. While
Mm,
many people are struggling with like public speaking and like a lot of people have this fear, when you make it less about you and more about
mm,
the people, it
yes.
changes, right? So at a certain point, my message to me felt
Mm,
like a responsibility. I have to share this to people because it's going to change people's life. It's no longer
yes.
about me. It's no longer about
Mhm.
me or the attention of being on stage, or I'll get good
Yes.
pictures while I'm on stage and some content.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
about that. There's somebody
Mm,
in that audience that
mm,
needs to hear what I'm
yes.
saying so that they can change their life too. And if you believe in your message and really believe that your message is life altering, it should push you past any fear of getting on the largest stages in this world. And that's where it all changed for me. It's like once I became aware of my responsibility to share my
Mm,
message, I
yeah.
seized every opportunity I could.
That's amazing, and that's a very interesting point, and it falls right within, our hashtag community upliftment. This is about community upliftment, and what you do is about community. And the moment we forget about ourselves, because when we put the focus on ourselves, that's when the stress and the anxiety for public speaking sets in. I had to learn that very early in my career in the ministry. It's about the message that's going out to the people. I'm the vessel of God. I am there to deliver. I'm the mouthpiece. The moment I switched that mindset, public speaking, preaching, performing with music, anything that was related to that, not having the focus on me, forgetting about myself became easy. And it started to flow and I was more effective. So that's a very important principle to put out there. So for anyone in the audience that feels, they are shy to get onto stage, or they feel anxious or worried that they might say the wrong thing, take the focus, like Bobby said, off of yourself, because you are there for a greater purpose. And you said something earlier about being cut from a certain cloth. And I'm very true to, my spirit and what I feel and experience. I love talking, that. You've seen that before. So I just want to say, I just really felt the Lord dropped in my spirit. You are cut from God's cloth. And let me tell you, all the adversities that you faced here, the resistance here that you faced on earth, those are the very things that made you the strong and an impactful individual that you are today. So, from me to you, I want you to know that. And I'm sure you have a very strong bond with God as well. And He's just always out there looking after us. How wonderful is that?
It is amazing. It is amazing. And thank you for saying that, Juanita. I really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure. And I want to refer to some quotes because I was on your Facebook profile today, thinking about, I always like to do research and think about what I'm going to say or ask in a interview to make it edifying. You've got some phenomenal quotes they are like one or two sentences, but they're so amazing. You posted something that said, "Be more interested than interesting." Would you like to elaborate on that?
Oh man, I could speak about this for the whole show. You know, when I first started my business, I had some immediate success, and I had a arrogance complex that went along with that. And I
Yeah.
look back on that time, Juanita, and I couldn't imagine the pain that I put other people through while I acted in such an arrogant way, acting like I knew everything, acted like I had it all figured out, acted like, what didn't stink. And
Yes.
it was when I started to embrace humility as an
Mm,
absolute key core value for myself that everything changed for me. So
yes.
now I made a promise to myself. This is one of the promises I made. When I go to conferences, I will ask a question if given the opportunity. So
Oh,
those that
good.
know me, those that follow me and have seen me go to conferences, I'm usually first in line at conferences to ask a question. I was at a conference recently, a couple weeks ago in Salt Lake City. I asked like
Yes.
5 questions, and I'm always front row and I'm always taking notes. If I'm speaking at the conference,
Mm,
I'm front row and I'm taking notes and I'm asking questions. Why? Because I'm a student
mm,
first.
yes.
I have to remain curious. So what's
Yes.
amazing to me is when people get into a opportunity to talk to somebody of, let's say, a great stature, like somebody of great influence, the first
Yes.
thing they do is start to tell them all the reasons why they're great, right?
Mm,
But at the same time,
yeah.
they're also pitching the idea that they want them to give them advice, or even when they seek mentorship, they'll be like, "Let me tell you how great I am." Well, bro, if you're that great, you probably don't need mentorship, right? But
Yeah.
that's the whole reason for the message in the first place, was you needed mentorship or wanted it. So remember to be humble and remember to be more
Always.
interested than
Yeah.
interesting. And that little model can keep you quiet
Yeah.
a little bit longer, right? If you're
2 years
talking
in
more
one
in the
house.
conversation, right? And the word silent and the word listen have exactly the same letters in them, just scrambled in different order.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Crazy,
Wow,
right?
yes.
Silent and
Awesome.
listen, same letters, right? So if you're
Yeah.
talking too much in a conversation, right?
Mm,
You're probably not asking enough questions. So be
yeah.
more interested than interesting. There's a book called Power Questions for those of you who are listening and want a resource for making sure that you have great questions in your bank or in your mind stored already. There's a book called Power Questions, and literally the last like 10 pages are just phenomenal questions that you can ask while you're in a conversation with someone.
Wow. That's a great resource. That's a wonderful
Phenomenal
guideline
resource.
for people who have to learn how to be more silent and that when they ask the questions, they ask the right question. So that's a powerful resource. And another quote that I saw on your page is something very inspiring. You said, "I could lose everything tomorrow and I'd still have everything I need." How great is that? Tell us about that, please.
So this is a tough one. This one goes back to, I went through a self-love journey. This was probably like 2013, 2014. I had already started my business, about the time where I really embraced the humility concept.
Yeah.
And I went through this self-love journey, and I realized that, in order for me to love others properly, in order for me to be the best version of me that I can be for the people around me, I have
Yes.
to unconditionally love me. And so if I unconditionally love me, then how can I be dependent on things that are outside of my control for my
Mm,
happiness? Okay.
mm.
So this means this is a crazy exercise, and there are going to be people that are listening to this, and you might not even like this, that disagree
Ah,
with this 100%. Okay.
yeah.
But my challenge, if you're in this place where you truly believe that you love yourself unconditionally, I ask you this question:
Mm,
if everything was taken from you tomorrow, and I mean the people that you love most, the people that you
mm,
care about the most, the people who you think right now are the reason for existing, if
mm.
they were, God forbid, no longer in your life tomorrow, could you find a reason? Could you love yourself enough to keep pushing
Yes.
forward? It's not a comfortable conversation. It's a very uncomfortable conversation. But when you think about how dependent we are in a lot of ways on another entity, and
Yeah.
then we say we are self sufficient or self loving,
Mm.
how can those two things coexist? Because here's the other side of this: as God, as much as I would hope everybody's loving families stay together in the way that they do, I've witnessed numerous times people who say they are motivated and 100% alive and doing what they are doing
Yeah.
because of their children. Okay. Only for their
Mm.
children to turn 18 or 19 and never talk to them again.
Mm.
What
That's
then?
important. Yeah.
What then? Right? So when I
Yeah.
talk about this self-love journey, I challenge you and I ask you, if
Yeah.
everything that you think matters today was gone
Mm.
tomorrow, but you had you, healthy you,
Mm.
could you find a reason to keep going?
You're speaking right into my spirit and my heart today. I want to share something that happened to me in 2020.
Oh goodness.
It was locked down and the church is closed. So I was in full time ministry at that time. My marriage failed, my ministry failed, my mom passed away within 3 months of us her hearing that she had stage 4 brain cancer. And I almost didn't complete my master's degree in theology because of COVID. And my mom was my everything. She was my go-to person. She was my mentor. She was my best friend. And I only grew up with her because I also come from a broken family, and there's a lot of abuse and things, on my father's side. And long story, but when she passed away, I felt like the training wheels had come off, and I had to love myself because it took her last words to me on her deathbed to make me realize that I was living so much for everybody. I wasn't happy. I was just giving, 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 not loving myself, just overworking myself all the time. And she looked at me and she said, "You've done enough now." She said, "You're always busy with community work and, find that balance, but live for you now, live with intention." And that shock, that trauma of losing her, coming back from her funeral, I had to conduct her funeral, most difficult thing I've ever had to do in my life. It's fine, if I do other family members, of other families, but when you have to do your own mom's funeral, conduct that was hectic. But when I came back, I said, "Well, I'm going to make her proud. I know she's not here anymore, but I'm going to love me." And that was a journey, Bobby, because I didn't think that way. I had to reframe my thoughts, the way I looked at myself. I had to go and sit and think, but what makes me happy? And you are right, those are the most difficult questions. Those are the most difficult things we go through, but they are necessary. They
Right.
are
And it's hard.
necessary.
It's difficult for somebody to imagine what you experienced in real life. So again, when I brought this up, obviously I had no knowledge of
Yeah,
that. Juanita, you and I,
that's
you
so
just said at the beginning of
beautiful.
this, we haven't really had a whole lot of
No.
organic conversations. So
Yeah.
but when somebody is forced to go through that, you're forced to
Yes.
react to it. You're forced to,
To circumstances.
become aware of certain things within you. If you are in that place and then go through some of those things,
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more comforting knowing that
Yes.
you got you at the end of the day, you got all
Yeah.
that you'll ever need within yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm very sorry to hear about your passing of your mother, and but I'm glad to see
Thank you.
you making her proud and just pushing, and that's admirable. So hats off to you.
Thank you, thank you. And it had to happen. I see God's hand in everything, and I believe we have to speak about this topic this evening. It's being led. This conversation is definitely being led. So there's another quote on your Facebook that I want to read out. I have it in front of me, and I really believe in these words that you wrote right here 6 days ago. You said, "Your success in life will be in direct proportion to what you do after you do what you are expected to do." Now, we've spoken about that, but you also have something later here that you said, "Don't be upset about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do." Ouch.
Yeah, yeah. We live
Love
in
that.
we live in such an entitled world, right? Where people think that I mean, it's unfortunate. I've had family members that worked within my business and
Yeah.
they felt like were, um, they were owed the money
Oh,
that the
yes.
company made because they
Mm,
were such an integral piece of this company. And I love those people to death, but you know the
yes.
type, Juanita, right? The ones that leave a company that's been in business for 50 years and they're like, without me, this company will crumble. It's been in business for 50 years, bro. I think it's going to be okay. Right.
It's about
It's
the
like,
people.
yeah, and I'm not saying that they're not doing a great job, and I'm not saying that the company is not
No.
grateful for them, but you're not we tend to overvaluate our position within an
Yeah.
organization, right? And
Mm,
so for me, like, people expect to do a little bit of work and get a lot of results, and that's just not how it
yes.
works. In fact, you're going to do a lot of work and get a little bit of results. That's the proportion
Then you
that it will come back to you on, right? Think about working out, right? You know how much working out it takes to lose weight and gain muscle, right? It's not
yeah.
a 1 or 2 day thing. It's not even, you know what I mean? It's not
No.
even, it's more than just 4 or 5 visits to a gym a week. You're going to have
Yeah.
to be dedicated to
That's
this. You're going to have to put the diet in place. You're going to have to put the fitness in place. You're going to have to make sure that your form is right on all the exercises. You can't just grab weights and expect to, so it's like, where's the work that's going along with these ambitious dreams? How many
constant.
times have you heard some young guy or young girl say, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 years old? Cool. And
Everywhere.
that's very doable. It's a
Yeah.
very doable thing, but not without the work.
Mm.
There's another concept that Brian Tracy teaches, and it's the 40-hour concept. And it's
Uh,
basically the same thing I just said. It's like every hour after 40 hours per week that you put in will be a direct investment into your future. So if you have a 9 to 5 right now, understand that 40 hours out of the week is not all your time. Everybody that says they work 40 hours a week, they're like, I work 40 hours a week. I have no time for nothing else. You ever did the math on that? You ever did the math on how many hours are left in the week? There's a lot,
yeah.
right? So use some of that time and invest in your future and invest into something and put the work in, put extra effort in. When I got my first job coming out of prison, the job that I got was at Walmart. Okay. And this is
Yes.
me putting on the suit was going the
Yeah.
extra mile, right? That was going the extra mile. But I got the job, and
Yes.
they also told me that because it was Christmas time, they're like, hey, we're hiring you, but we're also going to let you go after Christmas. And I'm like, dang, bro. So you're basically telling me that you're hiring me and firing me all in the same sentence, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. But they put me in electronics, right, Juanita? And I'm like, okay, I don't know much about these TVs back here, but I know that they look blurrier than they should, right? So I went home
Okay.
and I was living with my uncle at the time. He was letting me sleep on his couch, but my cousin had a computer, okay? And my cousin was doing online classes, so I would wait till he was done and I'd use the computer for YouTube. I'd go on YouTube and I'd learn as much as I could about these TVs, right? And because I wanted to secure the job and I wanted to try to build into my future, I was putting all this effort in after hours that I wasn't getting paid for, that I wasn't on the clock for, but I was learning, right? And then as soon as I felt like I knew enough to get those TVs corrected and right, I stayed overnight. I didn't even ask anybody permission. I just stayed overnight on my own, right?
Yeah.
And I hooked up all the TVs to high definition. I cleaned them all off. I
Wow.
learned more about the TVs. I came in the next day. I taught all the associates in my department everything I could tell them about those TVs. Everything that I had learned, I shared with everybody else. Right. That was my first example of the mindset of abundance and not trying to keep that information to myself and practice the mindset of scarcity. I shared it with everyone. And the impact that we had because I shared it with everyone was much larger. But because of my efforts, you couldn't buy a TV from that Walmart for like the next 2 weeks because everything we had was sold out. Everything that was coming was sold out. It was
Wow.
gone, right? So the store manager's like, what the heck is going on? He comes over to the department. He looks at the department manager and asks him, like, what's going on over here? And everybody points at me as like, this freaking guy. And I got made a manager 2 months after I've been released from prison.
Wow.
But my thing is right now is what does the today's workforce say when you say something like that to them? I'm not doing anything if I'm not on the clock. I'm not. You think I'm
Yep.
going home and thinking about this place? I'm not thinking about this place. That was exactly my meal ticket, was doing exactly what most people are saying they are not willing to do. That's not my job. I'm not on the clock no more. I'm clocked out, buddy. Catch me tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not the way. If you want something from this thing called life, you've got to put something into this
Yes.
thing called life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you always have to do your best. You can't do
Yeah.
your best just today. You have to do your best every day. And I see, when you speak about the things like this event in your life, I mean, they were going to have you there or contract you there just until after Christmas. You
That's
became
right.
manager because you were
Yep.
hungry. You were hungry for success. And you also talked about the mindset of abundance. I agree with you 100%. Share the knowledge that you have. Share the information that you can and share yourself with others. Would you like to explain a little bit more about the mindset of abundance for the audience, for those who have never heard of that before?
Oh yeah, 100%. So the mindset of abundance, there's a term called trade secrets that you'll hear a lot of people talk about, right? It's
Yes.
like, this is something we're doing within our organization that is, we're not letting anybody else know. If you practice that kind of a concept, you're protecting this information, but you're also admitting that that's all it would take for that other person to match your value. Imagine that.
Yes.
Imagine this
Wow.
one little detail is the only separator between you and the other company. You ever seen the movie Focus with Will Smith and Margot Robbie? In there, there's a Indy race cars, right? And
Yeah.
they have this formula for a special gas that passed all the tests for regulations and everything like that. And they're selling the information to another team, and it's like this $1 million transaction or whatever. Ultimately, like, that didn't actually impact that other driver. It was not the gas that ever changed anything. It was the concept that was what was holding them back. So there's a saying too that I love, and it basically helps capture the mindset of abundance and scarcity too, is like the fear. Excuse me, let me back up for a second. The reality that other people are taking your business and your happiness is not taking your business and happiness. The fear that other people are taking your business and your happiness is what's taking your happiness, right?
Yeah.
It's not the actuality. It's the fear that that's actually happening, which is stealing from you. So it's all self-inflicted. When you actually understand success and you think about the people who are killing it in their industry and you talk to them about what they're doing, it's amazing how quick they are to share everything they're doing. They'll share everything. Oh yeah, this is what we do right here. We do it right this. This is what we do when we go out to sell a job. We do this, 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 and this, and then we implement this. And on the back end, we do this, 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 and this. And these are our systems. This is our processes over here. This is our CRM system. This is Vicky. Talk to her. She's our office manager. She'll tell you anything you want to know. Right?
Business plan.
And here's why. Because less than 5% of the people that are told that are going to implement any of that. Right? How many times has somebody given advice to somebody before one person takes the advice? It's the same concept. And then here's the responsibility. When you're a person that practices abundance and you share all the details and you're like, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do, then you're also, as a byproduct, constantly challenged to improve. Right?
Yes.
Because if your competitors, if you're fearing that your competitor is going to catch up to you through the information that you shared, then it's your responsibility to keep improving so that they never catch you. Because by the time they implement the things that you just talked about, you done implemented 10 more things that keeps you above them and keeps you moving. And if they do, maybe you'll be asking them for advice. And guess what? Bet you they'll share it in that time.
Yeah. So the mindset of abundance is a win-win. It's for those who draw from your knowledge win, and you win because it keeps you accountable and it keeps you driven and motivated, to excel and to exceed. And I always tell people we are lifelong learners. We'll always have to develop personally and professionally. There's never a day that any of us will arrive that we can say, oh, we've arrived. We've done everything we can do. Or we are perfect. Or I mean, every day is a new day of learning.
That's right. And it's your responsibility. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I have an 18-year-old daughter as well, but I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I just love how curious she is. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, please, if there's anything about you that I want you to hold on to forever, is remain curious. Remain curious.
Absolutely good advice. Tell us about your family. We'd love to learn about your wife and your kids and your family.
Yeah. So my wife and I just celebrated 17 years of marriage in
Oh,
December,
wow.
December 30th.
Wow.
She's an exceptional person. I met her when I was 16 years old. She was 15 years old. She saw potential in me far before I ever seen it in myself. And she was with me through everything I told you about, and she's always made me see more in myself. I remember when we first got our first place, Juanita. I'd only been home from prison for a couple of months, few months, maybe like 4 or 5 months at this time. I got my job at Walmart. I was working my way up, trying to make some decent money, and I'd saved and saved and saved, and I got a 2-bedroom trailer, mobile home trailer, and we moved in. It was me, her, and my oldest daughter at the time, Ariana. And I
Beautiful.
remember when we moved into this house, I sat on the front step with her because there wasn't no yard or anything. And I said
Yeah.
to her, I was like, babe, because it was mind blowing for me. I put my own roof over my own head. Like, it was unbelievable for
Wow.
me. And so I said to her, babe, I could live with you in this house for the rest of my life. I said that to her. And you know what she said back to me? She said,
Yeah.
this will do for now. And I joke about it. Like, obviously it's funny, but my thing in the moment, I was like, yo, she thinks I could do more than this. She thinks I could do more than this. And I was like, man, it's just every step of the way, she made me feel like I hadn't even tapped into my potential. And little did any of us know she was right. And my daughters are amazing. My oldest is 18 years old. She's a tattoo artist. I love it because her senior year, she decided she was going to start her tattoo apprenticeship, and she crushed it. This was her first. I don't know if you can see it in the screen, but
I can see.
this
Wow.
was her first. Oh goodness, there it is. This was her first black and gray piece that she did. It's the statue of the David. And I mean, she just did an amazing job with it. She's incredible. She's just an incredible artist. Stays very busy. A lot of people go to her now. And like I said, my youngest daughter, 14, she's a cheerleader, competitive cheerleader. She's one of the flyers. They throw her up in the air and she does flips and all kinds of stuff in the air. Yeah. So
It's so beautiful. It keeps exciting.
yeah, I'm so proud of both of them. They're just amazing kids. Lord knows I didn't deserve that because I gave my parents hell when I was a kid, but I got great kids, that's for sure.
Well, God chose the right wife for you. He sent you a phenomenal wife and daughter. And, I can see, because I'm a behaviorist, I learned, and I'm sure you are as well, because you also work with crowds. I can really see when you speak about your family, that joy, that love that just oozes out of you, and you are so grateful, to have them in your life. And I just want to say you are a mover and a shaker, my friend. And it's such an honor to know you. You've done so much in such a short time, really. And there's other people that are going to hear and see this, and you have inspired all of us this evening. And with that, I want to ask you, do you have any message that you want to leave to the underdogs in this world? Because you and I, we are underdogs, and we know a few underdogs as well. What message would you leave them with this evening?
Yeah, so this is a good one. There's a great book by Dean Graziosi. He wrote, it's called The Underdog Advantage. And when we look at ourselves as underdogs, right, we look at this and we look at all the things that make us an underdog, which are we're undersized, we're underexperienced, we have the bad backgrounds, we have, whatever it is, right? And for those reasons, it's flaw focused, right? But for us, we have to remember that being an underdog actually gives us the upper hand, okay? Because the pressure is off. As an underdog, nobody's expecting us to win. So the idea of failure is not as scary for an underdog as it would be for somebody who's favored to win, right? So if we channel this properly, we can use this to take more risk and overcome more fear. For example, when I started my business, I didn't have any money. I was still living in the trailer park with my wife, right? Yeah. And I went to start my business. And here's what people said to me when I started my business. Yeah. What if it doesn't work? Now, there's a lot that I could take from that. Like, bro, what do you mean? What if it does work? You know what I mean? I can combat that. But here's the thing that was just obviously in my face about that question. if it doesn't work, I'll be right back here, right where I am right now, because I was already so close to the bottom, right? My fear of failure was almost non-existent, because if it doesn't work, I'll just start right back here, right exactly where I'm at right now, and I'll try again in a couple of years. That's literally what my consequence was going to be. But think about the person who leaves a 6-figure corporate job to go start their business. Sacrifice, right? A dependent 6-figure income. They're sacrificing it, taking a risk, and going to start something on their own. Now, the fear of failure there is much larger, because now you know what I'm saying? So like and then here's the other thing. Here's the transition and the evolution of an underdog.
Yeah.
When you're an underdog who succeeds, right? Eventually, you're going to become the favorite.
Yes, right? That's true.
Eventually, people are going to start rooting for you. So here's your responsibility then. Don't forget where you came from, and remember that underdog mentality, because it is a strength and not a weakness. One of the things that I tell everybody all the time about my business is I am a risk taker. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Now, I'm not at the tables I'm not at the crap tables in the casino, and I'm not at the blackjack tables in the casino. So I'm not taking those kind of risks, but I do take risks in my business. And I feel like my familiarity with the bottom empowers me to take more risks at the top.
Absolutely. My goodness, that's a mic drop right there. That's powerful advice. And I love what you said about risk taking. Someone asked me the other day, what's my favorite part about being an entrepreneur? And I said, I love taking risks, and I'll continue to do so. So it's just been wonderful to learn from you, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining us and making time. We appreciate you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you to your audience. It was an honor to be on the show. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I think you have my Instagram here, which is Mr. Brightside. All my social media pages are Mr. Brightside in some version of it. It's my Instagram is underscore Mr. underscore bright underscore side underscore. So it's a lot of underscores in there, but feel free to follow me there and message me. I love to connect. I love to create dialogue with people. And, you know, again, there's so much power through relationships. So I'd love to meet you and understand who you are as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, before we go, what can the Meticulous Moments community support you in? Because we want to support you as well. How can we support you? What are you busy with? What projects do you have that we can be involved in?
Yeah, so the stuff that's going to be most well aligned here is probably going to be Unleash You Now. I'm a partner there with Michael Faber, who is the founder and a phenomenal individual. Nice. If your audience has become familiar with him already, I do believe Javier, who was on your show as well, is a part of the Unleash You community. And so at least give us a follow, check us out on social media so that you're familiar and understand who we are as a community, because our mission is to impact 1 billion people, and we need to impact them through you guys, right? Because trying to impact 1 billion individual people is going to be hard, but if we can impact people who are going to impact people, then it's a lot easier a mission, right? There's a saying, and I got to give him a shout out for this real quick. There's a guy named Brian Bogert. Love him. And you know the phrase, hurt people, hurt people? You ever heard that phrase? Yeah, hurt people, right? He uses a phrase called moved people, move people. And I love it. And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, we are moved, and you definitely moved from rank to rank, and from being an underdog to being the one that we cheer for. We're going to connect with you, and we're going to follow you and support the Unleash You family. Meticulous Moments podcast, we really support the Unleash You family, everything that they do. I know there's an upcoming men's retreat, the upcoming women's retreat. Check out their Facebook page. And Bobby, we are cheering you and your beautiful family on. Thank you so much for bringing so much value to the podcast, and we'll connect soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. I'll see you on the other side. Goodbye, guys.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members, growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.